Thank you. My name's Jason Moon. I'm a combat veteran. I'm a PTSD sufferer, and I'm a suicide survivor. I'm a songwriter, I'm an entertainer, and I use music to educate. And for the next 90 minutes, I'm going to attempt to use all those experiences to help you better understand veterans. I want to give you my outline real quick. I'm going to tell you about my personal experience as a veteran and my struggles with post-traumatic stress disorder. I'm going to give you a breakdown, very fast and rough, about what PTSD is and how it goes on in the brains of veterans. Then I'm going to talk to you about your encounters with veterans, 7 things you should never say to a veteran. And I'm going to conclude with what you should say if you encounter a veteran. And here's my thesis. This is the whole point of this conversation. This is, if we can change the way we think and talk about post-traumatic stress disorder, we will save lives and lessen the suffering in the lives of veterans. If I can get everyone in this room here to change the way they think and talk about post-traumatic stress disorder, we will lessen suffering in the lives of veterans, and we will ultimately be able to save lives. So let's just begin. Where does war begin? This is a question I get asked a lot. Where does it begin? It began for me when I was deployed to Iraq in 2003 with the 724th Combat Engineer Unit. It began for me the moment I had to turn to everything I was leaving behind. And that was my 3-year-old son at the time. When you realize you're going into combat at the beginning of a war, the most important things are what you leave behind, because you hope to return to them when the war is over. So that's what I want you to focus on, and that's what I was focusing on as I left. My 3-year-old son. I had about 6 hours before I needed to report to Fort McCoy, and he was sleeping, and I didn't want to wake him up. And I had to say goodbye to him. So I wrote him a song. I know you're sleeping and I know you're tired, and I don't want to make you cry, but tonight, my son, may be the last night you ever see me alive. 'Cause tomorrow your father is marching off to war. The last words that I leave for you is you shine on, my little sparkler, shine on through and through. Some people try to bring your spirits down, and others try to lift them up. Some people carry their burdens on their shoulders, and other people just give up. See, not everyone can be strong all the time. This I know to be true, but you just shine on, my little sparkler, shine on through and through. Some people talk about things they don't know. They tell you that their lies are true, and other people listen to whatever they are told, blind their whole lives to the truth. Not everyone can stay true to the light, but everybody pays their dues. So you just shine on, my little sparkler, shine on through and through. Some people shine early in the morning and flicker when the day is through. Some people shine all night long, but fade when the day is new. Not everyone can shine all of the time. It's something not everyone can do. So you just shine on, my little sparkler, shine on through and through. So I'm watching you sleep with a tear in my eye. I kneel down and I say a little prayer that I make it through to be reunited with you someday, somehow, somewhere. But not every story ends in a happy ever after. So promise if I don't pull through that you will shine on, my little sparkler, shine on through and through. 'Cause not every story ends in a happy ever after. So promise if I don't pull through She will shine on, my little sparkler, shine on through and through. Thank you. It was very hard for me to communicate to a 3-year-old that I was leaving and that I may never come back. And that's what I did. I went to a war. Surprisingly, I'm going to tell you very little about the war and the combat experience. I'm just going to tell you the most important things you need to know. That in the military, in the combat experience, in the war zone, where there's 4 things. 3 things we try to do: keep ourselves alive, keep our buddies alive, and accomplish the mission. And the entire time you're there, all you think about is when you get home, to those things you said goodbye to. You keep yourself alive, you keep your buddies alive, and you accomplish the mission to the best of your ability. And the whole time you're there, you just dream about when it's over and when you can go back to all those things you left behind. For me, I paused the movie, which was my life. I put on the uniform, traveled across the country, and fought a war for 11 months. And then when I got done, I wanted to come home and unpause that movie. I'm going to tell you a short story. While I was in Iraq, all of my stuff was placed in a storage shed. All of my worldly belongings, all my physical stuff was in a storage shed while I was over in Iraq for 11 months. I came home from a very hot desert combat climate in uniform, landed in Appleton, Wisconsin, to a very muggy, wet, peaceful, sleepy little Wisconsin. And I was very happy to be home, and it was very immediate. I'd just been in a combat zone. 48 hours later, I'm in Appleton, Wisconsin. We got off the plane, and my sister picked me up at the airport. And the first place we stopped after 11 months of combat was the liquor store. And I was standing at the liquor. I hadn't had options for a long time. My options were very limited in Iraq. So I said, bottle of wine and a 6-pack of beer, and I'll make the decision later. We rented a truck, and we went to the storage unit to get all my stuff. And I had a little place in Neenah just waiting for me, a little home. I was so excited to get my life back, to just be home. So excited. We showed up to that storage unit, and unfortunately, the spring of 2004 in the Fox Valley of Wisconsin had seen unprecedented rains like they had never seen before, which led to the flooding of the streets and of the basements and of, you guessed it, the storage unit. My stuff, everything I owned, had been in this storage unit waiting for me to come home for 11 months. And for the last 2 months, it was molding and rotting. And if you've ever experienced mold or water damage, you know that that smell does not come out. I stood with my sister with the truck in front of the storage unit. We lifted up that door, and a waft of funk came out of that storage unit like I had never smelled before. And ladies and gentlemen, I was in a combat unit in a tent with 14 people who didn't shower. That smelled bad, but the smell coming out of that storage unit was so horrible. And my sister began to weep. And I'm standing there looking at all my stuff, molding and rotting, gone. I took one look at her. I took one look at the truck. I looked at the dumpster, and I said, take this. I didn't use the word stuff, but I'll say that now. There's a different S word. Take this stuff, put it in the truck, put it in the dumpster. I don't care. I'm so happy to be home. It didn't even faze me. It didn't even register as a problem. I was back. The world was over. I was home. I was going to unpause my movie, which was my life, and get back to hanging out with my 3-year-old son. We went to the house that I had rented. I didn't have hardly anything. I was able to salvage a few things. I had this guitar, 2 duffel bags, a 6-pack of beer, a bottle of wine, 1 pair of civilian clothes, and that was it, in an empty house. And my sister, she told her to drive away, and I just sat down, and I pulled out a pen, and I wrote this song because I was so happy to be home. I need a comfortable place where I can lay my head. I need somewhere that I can call home that is more than just a bed. I need a welcome mat, maybe a calico cat, and someone to chew the fat, 'cause I'm so happy to be home. I was so far away, and every day was more the same. You can run, but you can't hide from all the stuff you're burying down inside. Eventually you gotta let it out, and right now I just wanna shout that I'm so happy to be home. No place that I'd rather be, but for quite some time that wasn't up to me. I'll just sit here and see what the world will bring today. Take it one day at a time, pour myself another glass of wine and say thank God that I'm alive today. I just want to thank God that I'm alive today. I've unpacked my duffel bag and I threw away those old dog tags. Right now I'm gonna steal a little time, I'm gonna steal a little time away. I'm gonna sit right here and strum this song, and I might even sing it all night long, 'cause I'm so happy to be home. I need a new pair of tennis shoes. I gotta find me a lover that won't give me the blues. I need someone that I can talk to that'll listen to me whine. I need a little time for myself, so I gotta get some books and maybe a bookshelf. But I'm so happy to be home. I'm gonna sit right here home by myself, 'cause I don't need anybody else to tell me just how proud of me they are. 'Cause I've been around long enough to know that I don't need that stuff. You know, temporary has a way of wearing thin. And all this welcome home, good job, we're so proud of you bullshit is wearing thin. I need a little dog in a country farm. I need a woman I can hold in my arms. I need a new pair of guitar strings, and I gotta unpack just a couple more things. But right now I'm gonna sit right here, kick my feet up and have me a couple more beers, 'cause I'm so happy to be home. Yes, and I'm so happy to be home. Thank you. What I want to tell you there is that everything I owned was destroyed and I didn't care. It was unimportant. I can get more stuff. I was just so happy to be home. I was so happy to unpause the movie. The new mission was to begin to live my life again, to continue my degree in school, to spend time with my friends and family, to not be in the war zone anymore. I had done what I needed to do over there. I'd kept myself alive to the best of my ability. I'd kept my buddies alive, and to the best of my ability, I'd accomplished the mission, and now I was home. I had a new mission, just to enjoy life. But things started to happen almost immediately when I got home. I went to a Target to get a camera. I walked into the store, and the next thing I knew, I was backed into the furthest corner I could find of the store and having this massive anxiety attack, and I didn't know why. It was just a Target store. It was just a normal environment. I was beginning to hear things far away that you shouldn't be able to hear. A car door would slam 4 blocks away and it would register, and it would interrupt my conversation I was having with my friend or family. I'm home 3 or 4 days talking, and all of a sudden I would just stop and make note that someone was moving over there. I was being able to sense violence. I would go see music at a venue with my friends, and all of a sudden I would just say, "Get ready." And they would say, "Why?" And then a fight would break out over there. And these things were not planned. I didn't want these things. Oftentimes I would be in an environment with my friends and family, and I would just suddenly start to weep uncontrollably. I'd run into the bathroom and start slapping myself in the face. What is going on? Pull it together. Get back to the new mission of being home. And when this would happen, these symptoms that I didn't have any concept of what they were, I felt like they were interfering with my new mission, which was to get my life back on track and to just be home. And when this would happen, I would get very depressed and I would start drinking. And that 6-pack of beer turned into a case of beer. And the bottle of wine began to turn into a bottle of whiskey. And I would drink and drink and be depressed because I couldn't accomplish the new mission of being home. And after a certain amount of time, a little drill sergeant that everyone who's ever been in the military has in their head from the combat zone would reach down into my brain and say, get up, Specialist Moon. You are a combat soldier. You are a combat engineer. You are too strong for this. You are too tough for this, and you are too smart for this. You shoot, move, communicate, stay alert, stay alive. Get up. And I would pull myself back together and slap myself back into reality and charge back into my life, ready to live it again. I can do this. I can do this. This is what I was waiting for the whole time I was over there. And inevitably those symptoms would come, they'd overpower my life, they'd interfere with my life, and I'd sink back into that depression. And I'd start to drink again. And then I'd get depressed and drink more, and then I'd look in the mirror and say, this is not me. What is going on? Why can't I control this? I'd slap myself in the face, I'd jump back in the game. Every time that happened, I'd look at the person who was abusing the alcohol, who I didn't recognize, and I'd say, this is the last time you get the best of me. I got it now. I got it figured out. Sometimes I'd go 5 days without sleep, and when I did sleep, I was scared to sleep. And then when I did sleep, sometimes it would be just for 45 minutes. I'd go to sleep and then wake up. You can do that for a long period of time. I went to the VA, and I said, I can't sleep. And I went to the physical doctor, because that's what I thought this was a physical problem. So I went to the primary care guy, and I said, I can't sleep. And he said, we don't give sleeping pills to healthy people. So I confided in him that it had been almost 22 days of getting 45 minutes to an hour of sleep each night. And he said, you need to go to mental health. And I said, I don't need your help. And I walked out of the VA, and I didn't go back. My military training had taught me that I could outmaneuver this, that I could outwill this, I could outthink it, I could outstrength it. I didn't know what it was, and I thought I was crazy. I was repeating this cycle of substance abuse, and then I was isolating from my friends because I was embarrassed by the behaviors that I was exhibiting. And this cycle of symptoms, of the symptoms interfering with my life, getting depressed, using alcohol, pulling myself out of the depression, having the symptoms, that went on for 4 years. Undiagnosed, and all by myself. And each time that would happen, each time I'd pull myself out, I kept saying to myself, this is the last time that this happens. And then of course it would happen again. I look out my window and what do I see? I see a mean old world staring back at me, and it ain't got one thing nice to say. I've been down and I've been out, but I stood up and I began to shout, this is the last time you get the best of me. This is the last time, go on and let me be. And I feel empty of my own accord, and I feel lonesome and extremely bored, like the only thing left to do is drink. When I get to drinking, I get to thinking, This ain't the way that I wanna live. This is the last time you get the best of me. This is the last time. Go on and let me be. See, I've been places you don't ever want to be, and I have seen things I pray you never have to see, and it's left me feeling cold and ashamed. But when you got nothing, then you got nothing to lose. So I got nothing that I need to prove. And this is the last time you get the best of me. This is the last time. Go on and let me be. I used to find joy just about anywhere, and I could sing out a song without a single care. Now all these things that I used to love don't mean a goddamn thing, 'cause now I just sit here staring at my wall, waiting for the paint to peel or the sky to fall. But this is the last time you get the best of me. This is the last time. Go on and let me be. This is the last time. Why won't you let me be? Thank you. I hope you're enjoying this format. Teaching for a little bit, then singing for a little bit, and no PowerPoint. I hope you've gotten comfortable with it, because I'm going to give you a quick lesson in the military. Now that you just got comfortable with that, I'm going to change it. That's how the military goes. What I didn't know at the time was I had PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. 4 years undiagnosed. When I was first diagnosed, I got a pamphlet from the VA that read something like this. PTSD is a group of symptoms such as depression, flashbacks, intrusive thoughts, nightmares, hypervigilance, difficulties with sleep and relationships, etc., etc., that happen to perfectly normal people as a direct result of being in a traumatic situation. That's what I latched onto and was very important to me. That happens to perfectly normal people as a result of being in a traumatic situation. The fundamental force underlying the symptoms of PTSD are the re-experiencing of the trauma, followed by attempts to suppress or bury any memories or associated feelings. The driving, fundamental impetus force of PTSD is a re-experiencing of the trauma, immediately followed by attempts to avoid memories and associated feelings. As I started to advance in my healing, the military had taught me, the more you know about your enemy, the more you know about the person who's trying to hurt you, the better you can stop them from hurting you. So once I was diagnosed with PTSD, and once I realized that it was normal, and it was a normal response, and that I wasn't weak, I began to investigate it. So I'm going to unpack this a little further. PTSD is it's clustered into 3 symptom groups. The re-experiencing symptoms, hyperarousal symptoms, and avoidance and numbing. Re-experiencing symptoms. This is the first group of clusters. These are intrusive thoughts, such as smells, sounds. The important thing I want you to get here is this is external. right? A sight, a sound. A car backfires, I think it's a gunshot. External, intrusive thought. But it's also internal. It's also nightmares, self-blame, guilt, self-talk, and emotions. So as I just said, there's a 4th of July, fun event for all of you, not for me. Fireworks go off, it reminds me of gunfire. I have a re-experiencing of traumatic, and that's an external stimuli. Sometimes also, on the other hand, I'm lying in bed at night, if I do get to sleep, and I start to have a nightmare. That's internal stimuli. I hope I'm breaking that out good. So, re-experiencing symptoms, external or internal. The next group of cluster of symptoms is hyperarousal. So this is hypervigilance. It's a constant state of being alert and aware of your surroundings. I don't know if there's any veterans who are in the room with PTSD, but if they are, they're probably on the edges and near the door, and they're alert and they're aware. They're hyper-aroused. This is the second group of symptoms. They know where all the exits are. You're always prepared for danger. You're always prepared for what's going to happen next. You're hyper-aroused. This presents itself in an exaggerated startle response. If you walk up behind a veteran with PTSD and you say, boo, then you'll get an exaggerated startle response. Sleep disturbances, because you cannot be alert and aware when you're sleeping. So you veterans start to do this thing where they are actually half asleep and half aware of their surroundings. Always on guard, always anticipating danger, always at the ready. I call this combat mode. This is when you're in combat mode. This is hyperarousal symptoms. The third cluster is avoidance and numbing. So avoidance of anything that reminds you of the trauma. 4th of July, I don't go there anymore. I just don't go. I go as far away as I can possibly get of anyone who's going to light fireworks on the 4th of July. That's avoidance. Denial, isolation, detachment, staying away from people, places, situations, anything that would remind you of the trauma, you avoid. That's how you take care of those external triggers. Well, what about the internal ones? What about the nightmares? What about the blame? What about the guilt? How do you get rid of that? Numbing. Veterans are very good at numbing. We usually use drugs or alcohol to numb those associated feelings. We call it, in the work I do, we call it self-medication. There might be a test at the end, right? So be paying attention. You'll know it's on the test if I say it 3 times. So if I say the 3 major symptoms, clusters of PTSD, are re-experiencing hyperarousal and avoidance and numbing, I've said it 3 times now, so you know it's going to be on the test. How do they expect a man to do the things that I have and come back and be the same? The things I've done that I regret, the things I've seen I can't forget, for this life and so many more. And I'm trying to find my way home, and the child inside me is long dead and gone, somewhere between lost and alone. I'm trying to find my way home. And I have seen another side, another slice of the pie that didn't seem too fair to me. People who did not deserve the suffering that they incurred. Freedom ought to be free. And I'm trying to find my way home, and the child inside me is long dead and gone, somewhere between lost and alone. I'm trying to find my way home. And Whether we lose or win, I'm so sick and tired of the spin. I don't think I can take any more. If the truth must stay in disguise, hidden beneath all the lies, then what were we fighting for? And I'm trying to find my way home. The child inside me is long dead and gone, somewhere between lost and alone. I'm trying to find my way home. And I was trying hard to keep a smile as I looked into the eyes of my child and told him where Dad has to go. But after Daddy went away, he's come back and he ain't the same as the man that you used to know. And I'm trying to find my way home. And the child inside me is long dead and gone, and somewhere between lost and alone. I'm trying to find my way home. So now I'm sitting here with time to kill, just staring out my windowsill and trying so hard to forget. In time I may forgive myself, but history repeats itself and it burdens my soul with regrets. And I'm trying to find my way home. And the child inside me is long dead and gone, somewhere between lost and alone. I'm trying to find my way home. And lately it's occurred to me, it's hard to fight an enemy that lives inside of your head. To spend my life in between the sleepless nights and the bad dreams, I think I might rather be dead. Still I'm trying to find my way home. And the child inside me is long dead and gone, somewhere between lost and alone. I'm trying to find my way home. So how do they expect a man to see the things that I have and come back and be the same? Thank you. I want to take now a moment to go inside of PTSD a little further, and I'm going to review that summary I gave you, and you can consult the DSM-5 manual if you want more information. But PTSD, in its immediate sense, is really about fight, flight, or freeze. We all know, most people know fight, flight. There's a third one, it's freeze. So, real quick, how many of you have ever had a close call on an icy Wisconsin road when a deer comes out? It comes out in the road, right? You're just sitting there, you're driving, you're talking, you're paying attention to the radio, you know, there's a conversation going on, and all of a sudden, immediately, this deer comes out in the road, and immediately you do things, right? You swerve or you don't, but you react. And when it's over, when everyone in the car goes, oh, and your heart's beating really fast, you might feel like you have to urinate. There's a whole reason for that, but so we've all had that experience, right? To some degree, the close call. That is your fight, flight, or freeze. Now, I want to break this down a little further into what's actually going on in the brain as I understand it. Information is coming in to your body at all time through your external senses. And it's received by your hippocampus. All that information comes into your brain. It's received by the hippocampus, and it's sending it up to your frontal lobe, which is right here. I call that the thinking brain. That's the part that realizes that you're at a conference right now. That's your thinking brain, the me. And that information is all being referenced against a database of memories that are stored in your hypothalamus. And it's shooting them down to that place. And it's running them by a reference set of memories. It's a reference point. And if there is a threat, when the deer jumps in the road, it triggers a response from your amygdala, which is the lizard brain. That lives somewhere back in here. And it's one of the oldest part of the brains. And that triggers fight, flight, or freeze. And that triggers a whole myriad of chemical reactions and hormones and releases that do all this stuff to your body. But you're in a state of fight, flight, or freeze. So here's the exercise. I want to do a thought experiment with you to better illustrate this. So come with me on this journey, if you will. You're walking through a beautiful park out here, right? You're taking a walk through the woods out here in the Dells. I encourage it. If you're here and you have time, it's beautiful. Maybe you're with your family, you're talking, it's really nice. You hear the sound of kids playing at the water park, right? That references through that whole process. Hippocampus says, no, it's not a threat. You walk into the trail and you're talking and you're just enjoying the day and you're just generally having a really good time, and you hear some rustling of leaves in the trees. That goes into your brain through your senses, through the hippocampus, goes to the hypothalamus, and it shoots back. Squirrel, dog, I don't know. Don't pay attention. It's not a bother. You keep walking, the rustling in the leaves gets a little louder, and you start to smell something. Maybe it's kind of like BO and dog poop, right? And you're like, maybe you turn to your friend and you go, what? Did you not shower today? You run it through your reference points, right? BO and dog poop. Why am I smelling that? But you're still okay. And you take another step, and then out comes this gigantic bear towering over you, right? Oh, it's right there. Immediately, your amygdala is triggered. Fight, flight, or freeze. If you froze, you're probably not at the table today. You probably became lunch, and you won't be at the conference. If you fought it, you've got some pretty cool stories to tell at the bar later on. And if you fled, you survived. And you can understand why your body would want to remember that experience, right? Because you survived not getting eaten by a bear. Important experience for walking in the woods. I mean, there's not a lot of bears out there. You're safe to walk in the woods. I just want to tell you that. But what your body does for you is it's going to store that in a different place in your amygdala, right? In the combat experience, we are continually exposed to the same trauma again and again and again. What I want you to understand here, post-traumatic stress disorder is a real and physical change to the brain. It's not a state of mind. It's not something you can get over. What your body does for you in the combat zone is it helps you out. What it does for you is it says, you know, that thinking part of the brain and that hypothalamus that has to register all those ideas, that takes too much time. And we're just going to skip that. And you become hardwired. So those external sounds, all that external stimuli comes into your brain, bypasses this part, goes right to your amygdala. So you can be a PTSD veteran, and you can hear an external stimuli that triggers a re-experiencing experience and puts you in hyperarousal, and you don't even know it. That's what I'm trying to get you to understand. You don't know that has happened. Sitting at the park with your family, having a wonderful day, and all of a sudden, why is my heart racing? Why am I starting to pay attention to the doorways? You don't even know what's triggered you. So I think we need a recap on post-traumatic stress disorder. I know I do. Would you guys appreciate one? Okay. A trigger, an event. It reminds the veteran of the trauma. Okay. Re-experiencing symptoms. And it's very important. That can be external, sound, smell, environment, or it can be internal, thought, self-guilt, blame, memory. When that happens, when you get triggered, that whole process of the amygdala going off in the fight, flight, or freeze, that happens while bypassing your thinking brain. And you become hyper-aroused, or as I call it, the combat mode. The veteran is now triggered, and they're in combat mode, and they're reacting, and they're not thinking. The amygdala is in control. That really sucks when that happens. I don't know how else to say it. It's a horrible experience, especially if you're in the park with your family and it goes off and that thing happens. So what the veteran does is they begin to avoid any situation that could possibly cause that experience, and they begin to self-medicate to numb out the internal voices. Trigger, re-experiencing, hyperarousal, avoidance, and numbing. How do I control my external stimuli? How can I control that most people are going to go on the 4th of July and set off fireworks? How do I control that? I can't. I can't go to all my neighbors and stop them. So what do? I isolate. I begin to isolate. I push them away. That's how the veteran controls their external stimuli. And how do we stop the internal stimuli? The constant nightmares and guilt and replaying in my mind of situations over and over and over again every day for the last 12 years since I've been home. How do I stop that? Self-medication. This is where most of you, when a veteran asks you for help in your professional line of work, or you find one in your profession, I know you're all from different walks of life, this is where you're probably going to find them, in a state of isolation and self-medication. Getting rid of all the external stimuli because I don't want to be triggered. It causes hyperarousal, causes me to go into the combat mode, so I'm going to avoid all of that, isolation. And the internal stimuli, the nightmares and the self-blame and the guilt, self-medication. That's where I found myself after 4 years of trying to do it the way the military had trained me, hard and fast and strong, and never ask for help and never show weakness. That's where I found myself after 4 years. The symptoms just kept getting worse and worse. Like the more I fought them, the more they developed. My warrior training, that hardcore drive on that kept me alive in the military, now prevented me from asking for help. We don't ask for help in the military. We're not trained to do that. We don't know how. I did not know how to ask for help. My mission, if you remember from the beginning, was to keep myself alive, keep my buddies alive, and accomplish the mission. That's what I did in the combat zone. Now I was home. My mission was to be home, to spend time with my son, to possibly fall in love, to go back to college, and I was failing at that mission. My buddies over there were my unit, but back home was my son and my wife. And one day, after 4 years of suffering from this, it occurred to me. The military trains us to eliminate threats. That's what I was trained to do, eliminate the threat in the combat zone. Now I'm home. The mission of taking my life back over and living again, I'm failing at it miserably because of these symptoms. And the biggest threat to my son and to my wife is this crazy veteran who lives in our house and gets drunk and goes off and is afraid of fireworks and is always in this state of isolation and self-medication. And in the spring of 2008, it just snapped in my head one day and I said, I know what to do about this. The military trained me what to do about this. The mission is failing. There's a threat to my buddies. Eliminate the threat. I am the threat. So in the spring of 2008, I took as many sleeping pills, muscle relaxants, everything the VA had thrown at me for those 4 years, every medication I could find, Benadryl, everything, and washed it down with a bottle of whiskey and decided I was just going to eliminate the threat. Some of you, if you're combat engineers or infantry, may be wondering how that story ends. So I'm just going to tell you, I survived. In case you were worried. It was a very dark time. It was a very lonely time. And it's a place where I find a lot of the veterans I work with. In a constant state of isolation and self-medication, the choice becomes to eliminate the problem, which is me. When the hope you've been searching for so very far away, and you hear your worst enemy every word you say, When the light shines so dim that you cannot see your hand, let it go the only way you know to escape your pain. Hold on, hold on, hold on for one more day. Hold on, hold on, hold on for one more day. When you think that you've seen the end and it's all that you can take, and you'd give everything you own just to catch your breath today. When it don't let up, you feel so down and there's nowhere to turn, and you look all around and you find that you've lost all your faith in you, then there's nothing left for you to do except to hold on, hold on, hold on for one more day. Hold on, hold on, hold on for one more day. The simple things that used to make you smile, now you say, hell, it's been a long, long time since I felt so good like I thought I would, like I knew I should one day. When you've given up and you've given in and you've lost your life to a ball of sin, and you just can't win no matter how you try, you fall down on your knees and you start to cry, and I said, hold on, hold on, hold on for one more day. Hold on, hold on, hold on for one more day. When you've lost your will to speak and a little reprieve is all you seek, and some peace of mind suit you fine, and things will go right from me for just one time. Then you throw your hands up to the air. Everybody just looks and stares and they say, I've been there, but they don't know, because the light just fades and the darkness grows. So I said, hold on, hold on, hold on for one more day. Hold on, hold on, hold on for one more day. Thank you. I survived that suicide attempt, but many do not. 22 veterans take their lives every single day. I'm going to repeat that. I travel around the country giving this performance. I talk to a lot of people. Sometimes it just doesn't register because it's just so much. 22 veterans every single day take their lives, plus one active duty. 22 veterans every day. We lose more veterans to suicide than we have in the combat zone. More veterans come home, survive the combat experience, come home, cannot deal with the symptoms of PTSD, and choose to take their own lives than the enemy could ever possibly imagine killing. Every single year since the Iraq and Afghanistan conflict started, with the exception of 2004 for the Battle of Fallujah. Why? This is the question. Why? Well, post-traumatic stress disorder, obviously, and I hope I've illustrated that a little bit. And I've got some ideas, some other ideas as to why. Because the military training did not prepare me to ask for help or to be weak and to need help. We can't, as veterans, or we don't know how to ask for help. In addition, our society in general in this room is not collectively at war with the veterans the way we have been in the past. In World War II, 12% of the United States population was serving in the military in some way, right? They're rationing butter, there's a draft, the entire community is at war, and as a community we had a celebration when we got home and it was officially over. The whole country was at war. Fast forward to Vietnam, 8% of the population is in some way involved in the military. Right? The country's not exactly supporting it in the same way as it did in World War II, but there's a draft. So everybody in some way is kind of involved in this experience. Would anyone care to take a guess how many people have served since the beginning of Afghanistan and the Iraq conflicts? Just take a mental guess. If you guessed 1%, you guessed way too high. Less than 1% of the United States population is being asked to do this combat experience. I'd estimate there's about 160 of you in the room. That translates to 1.6 of you having the exact same experience as I have. And it's even worse. The average troop, the average military service member has gone 3 times. They left everything behind. They said goodbye to their child. They went to the combat zone. They did the war thing. They kept themselves alive. They kept their buddies alive. And they completed the mission. And they thought about coming home. And then they came home. And they said, oh, I'm home. And they had a hard time readjusting. And then Uncle Sam said, oh, again. And they walked back over. And they went back to the combat zone. And they kept themselves alive and their buddies. And they did that 3 times. That's where you're going to find the average veteran of the Iraq and Afghanistan war, having that experience on 3 occasions, because there is no draft. The other thing, the third thing, or fourth thing, I'm sorry, is the lack of understanding amongst the average community about what PTSD is and how it affects veterans. Are you guys all bummed out and sad? Is there anyone in the room who's not a little bit overwhelmed? Because I can keep going on this, and I'm hoping to get to solutions. That's the next part. But I just want to make sure if there's anyone in this room who doesn't understand the enormity of this problem, 22 veterans a day. If I can change the way you think and talk about post-traumatic stress disorder, we can lessen suffering in the lives of veterans, and we can save lives. That's what I told you earlier. If I can change the way everyone in this room thinks and talks about PTSD, we'll lessen suffering and save lives. How society views post-traumatic stress disorder and the veterans who suffer from it directly affects how veterans react in terms of seeking treatment, suffering shame and guilt, and sometimes taking their own lives. We communicate how we think about PTSD through how we talk about it. And more specifically, we communicate what we think about PTSD in how we talk to those who suffer from it. So, I created 7 things you should never say to a veteran. And I hope from what I've told you today, these will make sense. So, 7 things you should never say to a veteran. 1, what'd you get to do over there? What happened? How many people you get to kill? You see any action? Must have been hot. What was your unit? What was your MOS? See any action? You got you shoot your rifle. What did I tell you was post-traumatic stress disorder? Re-experiencing. It's the first thing that veterans avoid. So when you ask a veteran any question, which is your natural reaction when you first meet them of curiosity, what did you do over there? It instantly triggers re-experiencing, which triggers hyperarousal, which triggers avoidance and numbing. So when you say that, the veteran just starts to isolate and self-medicate. So we do not say what happened over there. The next one, don't say that you know a distant relative, or your uncle was in World War II, or your grandpa was in World War II, or you have a friend, Joe, down the road. I know a guy on my cubicle, he came home from Afghanistan, so he's not doing so well. It's the next thing people do is they try to attempt to somehow associate in some meaningful way to the experience. Just don't do it. If you can't admit your ignorance to the problem, you can't learn how to deal with the problem. We have a problem in this country where everybody likes to show up to the conversation with something to say. Sometimes it's okay to just not say anything. So do not say that you have some distant relative, or now granted, if you live with a veteran, if you work with a veteran, if you're in day-to-day contract with a veteran with PTSD, then obviously you have knowledge of this. What I'm getting at is the people who have no knowledge of it and they somehow want to graft someone out of their history or past to make it so that they're in this club. So number 2, don't say that you know a distant relative. Number 3, don't say what you would have done over there had you signed up. This one really annoys me, and it happens a lot. It usually happens from young men who play too much Call of Duty online. And it goes something like this. You know, I didn't sign up, but if I did, I probably would have been a combat ranger, Navy SEAL, high-speed sniper, and I wouldn't have PTSD, and I would have killed 100 people. And another version of this is, yeah, I'd always wanted to fly helicopters, so I think that if I signed up, I probably would have been, you know, like a helicopter pilot. Just don't do it. What it really is, in our country, we honor veterans. We don't always get it right, but we try really hard. Right? We put them on a pedestal, and we should. Veterans, when they sign up to join Uncle Sam, they sign a check for up to and including their lives in defense of their country. That is a noble and honorable thing. We honor them. But it takes a lot of courage, pain, and experience to wear that badge. When someone says what they would have done had they chosen to do that, what they are really doing is attempting to steal that honor. Don't do it. Don't say what you would have done over there. It's an attempt to steal honor. Now, I tried to make this list. It's 7 things, and we're on number 4. And I say that more for me to remember, not for you. I tried to make this list progressively harder, kind of like the military. Just each one is a little harder. So these are going to get a little more difficult and a little more maybe hard to understand. Don't say, I'm glad you made it home okay. I'm glad nothing bad happened to you. Glad you didn't get hurt. When you look at me, I'm a combat engineer, so let me count. 10 fingers and 10 toes. When you look at me, you can't see the insomnia. When you look at me, you can't see the nightmares. Maybe when you saw me pacing around the room before we started, you saw some of the hypervigilance and anxiety. But when you look at a veteran, we call it the invisible wound, PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. You cannot see it physically by looking at them. But now you know that it is a real and physical change in the brain. If you had an MRI and you had a before and after, you would be able to see it plainly and clearly. But when you look at a veteran or a person, you cannot tell that they have PTSD. So when you say to them, I'm glad nothing bad happened to you, I'm glad you didn't get hurt, what you are saying is you do not have a recognizable and credible wound. And I do not recognize it. So don't say that. Number 5, get over it. Right? Get over it. Jason Moon, you've been home for 12 years. Iraq was 12 years ago. Why are you still thinking about it? Your uniform's long since been packed away. Get over it. Just stop thinking about it. I mean, you keep dwelling on it, of course you're going to have reactions. PTSD is a real and physical change in the way the brain works. I cannot get over it. No one can just get over it. I told a friend once, and usually when they say things like this to me, I have an urge to choke them to death, and then I have to override that, and then I try to do the education portion instead of the combat portion. But when they say, get over it, stop thinking about it, I say, you know, that was the first thing I intended to do when I got off that plane. The first thing I intended to do when I was on my way to that new house. That's exactly where I was when I saw all my stuff rotting and molding. I had every intention of never thinking about it again. It's not a choice to have PTSD, and it's not something you can outthink or outwill. Do not say, get over it. The next one is kind of hard, especially for the women in the room. This will be difficult. You want to empathize. If you just went down the icy road that's full of deer to get here, and you had that experience, that near collision experience, and then I got to the conference and I said, wow, God, I just went down this icy road, and oh, was it 94? Yeah. And there's deer all over. Oh, by the Menards? Yeah. And I swerved. Oh, I had that same experience. And you would see me and I would be like a little shaken, and you might empathize with me. It's a natural human reaction. You would say, I understand, I get it. I just had that experience too. What this does in the mind of the veterans, though, I was at a conference one time and I was talking about severe insomnia, and someone came up to me and said, when I was cramming for my PhD exams, I had to stay up for 2 whole nights straight drinking coffee, so I kind of get what insomnia is like. And when they said that to me, what happened to me was I thought I compared not the symptoms, but the underlying causes of the symptoms. And again, after I overrid the desire to choke them to death, I wanted to share with them some of the nightmares that keep me up at night. Don't empathize. When you do, in the mind of the veteran, you are comparing the symptoms with the underlying causes. Most veterans served and had this 1% of the population that has had this experience in Afghanistan and Iraq. They did it so you wouldn't have to ever have that experience. So just resist the urge to empathize. The 7, this is the hardest for all people. Do not ever offer help to a veteran unless you are absolutely 100% sure that you can follow through. This is called drive-by caring, and it's very dangerous. When a veteran is in that moment of isolation and self-medication, and when suicide has become a reality, that's when your average veteran, only when shit has hit the fan so bad and it has become untenable, that is when they are going to reach out for help. And if after this conference you feel really good about this and you feel really equipped and you really want to help veterans, because Jason Moon told you all about the 22 veterans that kill each other every day, and you might be tempted to give a veteran your card and say, call me anytime if you ever need something to talk. And then later, a couple weeks later, when the phone rings at 4 a.m., you may say to yourself, as you're wrestling your kids to sleep or you've got to get up for work, I mean, call me any time between the hours of 8 a.m. and 5 p.m. When a veteran, in a moment of crisis, of isolation and self-medication, where suicide is a real option, if they reach out and they make a phone call and you don't answer that phone, I can almost guarantee you it's not going to ring again. Excuse me. So don't. If you're not in that position, never offer help to a veteran unless you absolutely, positively can follow through on it. Those are the 7 things you should never say to a veteran. So the question is then, what do we do? What do we do? How do we have a conversation with a veteran? You've told us all the things we shouldn't say. Hopefully you all understand a little bit from my personal journey that I've told you what it's like to have to go to war, what it's like to come home and not be able to readjust. I hope I've given you a brief breakdown of what post-traumatic stress disorder is and the fight, flight, or freeze response, and how that's a real physical change. And we now know that 22 veterans take their lives every single day, and that it's a really overwhelming and horrible problem. And I've equipped you with the 7 things that you should never say when you encounter a veteran, because those 7 things further isolation and they further the self-medication process. So what do we say? Now, in my mind, I want to take you, I have dreamt this up as if you're encountering a veteran. So, and because you're just all really good audience members and you've listened really well, you're just not going to say those 7 things, right? All right, I just need to see shaking heads. That's what we do in the military. What do you say? Start the conversation with, welcome home, right? A lot of my brothers and sisters that served in the Vietnam era, they didn't get that. And it was really bad for our society to do that. So we can make up for it now. Just say, welcome home. Start the conversation there. Welcome home. To every veteran, and I know there are a few in this room, I'm not going to ask you to raise your hand. For every veteran who's in this room, welcome home. Some people like to say thank you for your service. Some of the veterans that I work with are not too proud of what they were asked to do over there. I struggled with this as I thought, what is it that we should have people saying when they talk to veterans? And I found that the best thing to do is thank you for your willingness to serve. Because while veterans may not be particularly proud of the individual actions that they had to do when they were over there, they are incredibly proud that they were willing to put their life on the line when their country asked them. Welcome home. Thank you for your willingness to serve. Now, hopefully all those 7 things you're not supposed to say, and if you have to write them down like me, because I'm a combat engineer and I have to write everything down, even if you have to pull out that list, so you're running through your head and you don't say this, and you're thinking, what do I say next? Iraq for me was 12 years ago, and it haunts me every day of my life. And it's taken me incredible extreme therapy to just get to the point where I can stand on the stage and say this to you. I don't want to talk about my military experience. I want to talk about now. Welcome home. Thank you for your willingness to serve. How are you doing today? How are you feeling? What are you doing today? How are you at this moment of your life? Not that moment. How are you doing with the reintegration? How are you doing? The veteran, at this point, they're looking at you and they're going, wait. Why didn't this person ask me how many people I got to kill? That's strange. And they may even think, wow, they must have went on one of those Jason Moon presentations and they know the 7 things you're not supposed to say. And they may make a conscious decision, I'm going to stop isolation for just a second here. I'm going to take a risk if they're in a really bad way, and they could say to you, I'm not doing well. I'm not sleeping. I'm drinking too much. I'm always hypervigilant. I have anxiety. I'm not functioning well at work. I'm not functioning well as a father. I'm not functioning well as a husband. I'm not doing well. Now, this is where you have to resist the empathy, right? You have to resist that urge to empathy, because that's going to be your natural reaction. I'm not doing well. I'm a veteran. Welcome home. Thank you for your service. I'm not doing well. If you have to say something, you can say, I'm sorry that you are suffering. I'm sorry that you are going through this. But do not say, don't worry, it's all going to be okay. Because that's a promise you can't keep. And we don't make promises to veterans we can't keep. Welcome home. Thank you for your willingness to serve. How are you doing? I'm not doing good. I'm having all these PTSD symptoms. And the next thing you do, the most important, fundamental thing that you do when you encounter a veteran, if we want to stop these 22 veterans killing themselves every day, and if we want to break that cycle of isolation and self-medication and the choice that suicide is an option for 22 veterans a day, listen. Just listen. It is so fundamentally and utterly simple, and it is the one thing that people rarely do. When I talk to younger people, and I don't mean to insult anyone in the room, mouth closed, ears open, heart open. Let them talk. Don't interject. Don't say what you would have done. Don't feel like you got to add to the conversation. Just let them out. Let them talk. And the longer you sit there just listening, the longer the veteran realizes they can actually start talking about it. If you want to be super duper, if you've done this now, you haven't said the 7 things, you understand about PTSD, you know about what veterans go through, you know about the 22 veterans who kill themselves every day. Learn the resources in your community. Perhaps you are one of those resources in your community. And I'm sorry if you've had to hear this and you already know it. Learn the resources in your community, where you live and work. Not drive-by caring, not just send them to the, go to the VA. Who at the VA? Who do they call? Who gets the job done at the VA, at your VA? And perhaps if you live in Madison or Milwaukee, there's a dry hooch center. There's all these great programs. There's Vets Journey Home, Soldier's Heart, Warrior Songs. There's all this network from the VA, from big, gigantic, powerful bureaucracies to tiny little people like me out there in the field day after day doing the work. Find those resources in your community. Know their name, know their number. When the veteran says, I am not doing good and I don't think I can make it anymore, then you can pull that resource out of your pocket and you say, you need to call, not the VA, you need to call Bob at the VA. My friend Bob at the VA. He is good at this. You hand him the card. Now, if you want to knock it out of the park If you want to do a grand slam and you want to be the ultimate best civilian you can be in support of veterans, the very next day or later on that day, get on the phone, call up Bob at the VA and say, Bob, I ran into a veteran today at the coffee house. His name was Dave. He's not doing very good. He's in crisis. I gave him your information. You make that connection. How many of you are Packer fans? Or football fans of any kind? Right? When the quarterback hands the running back the ball, he just doesn't kind of toss it in his direction like a business card called the VA. He makes sure that the running back has firm grasp of the ball before he hands it off. If we listen, if we understand, and we begin to listen to veterans, and they can honestly and openly start to share their burden and their stories, if we listen without judgment and we let them share the burdens, they will begin to end the isolation. They will begin to come out of that isolation, and then we can direct them to real, that's okay, to real and good and sustainable help. PTSD is not a weakness. You need to tell veterans that. You may know that. Veterans don't know that. We think it's a weakness. We think it's a flaw. We think it happens to other people. I know that's not true. You know that's not true. That's how veterans think. If we can get them to understand that PTSD is not a weakness, and we can start to listen to them, they will start to come out of that isolation, they will break the self-medication, and they will stop killing themselves at 22 a day. And we can give them real help, and it takes real work and real therapy to deal with PTSD. There's lots of good stuff out there. I'm not going to lecture you about it. I'm sure a lot of you know about it. You can consult these resources. My name is Jason Moon. I'm a combat veteran. I'm a PTSD sufferer, and I'm a suicide survivor. I'm a songwriter, I'm an entertainer, and I use the creative arts to help heal veterans. I wrote a CD. Every song you heard tonight was on a CD called Trying to Find My Home. It's the entire experience that I had. I used art to heal myself. Now I use arts to heal others. If you are a veteran in crisis, that CD is free for you. If you are working with a veteran in crisis, that CD is free for you. It's used all over the country at VAs, big and small, as a tool to get through to veterans who are in that moment of isolation and self-medication and in that crisis point. Because it's the true story and the real story of a veteran who was in that moment. I'm not going to tell you how great it is. I'm just going to tell you, if you're a veteran who needs it, it's free. If you're working with a veteran, if you know a veteran, if your grandfather's a veteran, if your brother's a veteran, anyone you know, it's free. You might be asking yourself, Jason, how do you do that? How could you possibly give out all those CDs for free to veterans? Well, they're also available for purchase for $10. All the work I do, I travel the country, I give these lectures, and I talk to veterans all over the world. All the work I do through a foundation I started called Warrior Songs. It's a nonprofit organization. I'm not going to push it any harder. Donations are accepted, they're appreciated, and they're tax deductible. I'm going to be back at that table to continue the conversation. We have about 12 minutes left, which is amazing. And I'm going to sing you one more song. Because what veterans need to do, and what we need to do, help veterans do, through our new knowledge, is to help them tell their story. And this whole conversation I've had with you in lecture has helped me personally to tell a new story. And so this is the last song on that CD. I used to write a lot of songs, they're where I put my hopes and fears. I hadn't written a new song, going on 5 long years. This war got the best of me, and so I put down my pen, trying to to write a new song, but where do I begin? Sometimes I'm tired, sometimes I need help. Sometimes it takes everything I have to keep my heart from beating right out of my chest. Sometimes I have no idea what it is I'm trying to do. Tonight I write a new song and bare my soul to you. 5 days without sleep and my muscles began to shake. Shadows moving on the wall, it's a nightmare while you're wide awake. All I can do is sit there and try to hold on tight. Tonight I write a new song and pray I get some rest tonight. I got a lot of prescriptions up on my medicine shelf. I'd rather not take any of them, but others seem to think it's best that I should walk through my life with this pharmaceutical helmet on. Tonight I write a new song and pray one day all them pills are gone. When I think about it long enough, I feel sorry for myself. And then I get real depressed when I start thinking about someone else who has it so much worse than me, but still does not complain. Tonight I write a new song and hang my head in shame. So if I've ever harmed you, if I've ever done you wrong, if I owe you money, if you're offended by my songs, either let me pay you back in words or catch me another time. 'Cause tonight I write a new song, yeah, I've been working overtime. Tonight I write a new song, yeah, it's been a long, long climb. Try to put the past behind me and greet the future with a smile. So it's just a simple melody to show you just how far I've come. Tonight I write a new song, let's hope there's more to come. Now I have to end this new song so I can write another one. Thank you guys very much for listening.